Great weather outside, perfect for a bike ride. Luckily, today's guest on Seashore is Brian Kennedy, BKXC himself. He talks about riding the trails, riding the YouTube trail, riding the journey we're currently on from the pandemic point of view. And this is brilliant, you know? So, without further ado, let's go. Welcome to Seashore YouTube channel, and today we have a very special guest, someone who I've been watching his videos for many years now, for probably about 2 or 3 years now, and who is a pretty famous YouTuber in mountain bike circles, I would imagine. This is Brian Kennedy from BKXC.
Howdy. Good to be here.
Yeah, good. Just for people who don't know who you are, and for who aren't follow mountain biking,
Definitely. So I ride the best trails in the world. I started my YouTube channel 4 years ago, right around this time, and I figured if I went out and rode mountain bike trails with my GoPro and made commentary over it, that maybe people would like it, and people really liked it from the start. So I just kept doing it, kept traveling, and now I've traveled all over. And this year I was planning to ride all 50 states on my mountain bike in the United States, but that's on pause for now.
So with BKXC, it's a very successful YouTube channel now. Was that your first YouTube channel? Did you start with something else, or how did it come about that was you got to this point with YouTube?
Yeah, I actually did experiment with other YouTube channels. There was a guy at my work named Boogeyman Ben. He has a YouTube channel about horror. And I when he told me that, and I looked at his videos, and he had like 1,000 subscribers, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, kind of breaks your concept of what's possible and what's like different, and like, oh wait, this guy at work just does it, so why not? So I kind of got my mind spinning about, man, I do a bunch of audiobooks, like I listen to audiobooks all the time. How about I do an audiobook review channel and just see how it goes? And it was one of those things where I did the first video and then I didn't touch it again for like months, but then something in me got back and I was like, I'm going to try it again. And I did a bunch of other videos because I listened to audiobooks all the time. And so that was like my first little experimentation of getting in front of the camera, editing, talking, being comfortable, just like looking at the camera, which is the hardest part. And so I did that. And then I still kind of chewed away on the idea of like, man, YouTube, it seems like you can make money there. And I started studying YouTube a little bit. And I was like, I would love to like run my own business and have money on the side to be able to go do mountain bike trips. That's what I just, in my perfect world, I could have a little side business over here, a little YouTube channel, and then go spend all the money traveling the world on my mountain bike, because I'd heard about all these trips and I'd never been on one. So then I started this channel called the Wi-Fi Garden, where I reviewed all these smart sprinkler controllers. If it's raining outside, it won't water your lawn. Or, if it's been really hot, it waters more. And there weren't really good videos about it on YouTube. So I bought all of them. I got them from the companies. I made a bunch of videos about those. So it was its own little channel, and it did pretty well, actually. People found those videos. And a side note, it's very weird because there hasn't really been any new development in that space compared to normal technology, where there's like always something new every year. Sure, when I did that 4 years ago, I pretty much covered the entire field, and that was it. And I was making little Amazon revenue. I've made little Amazon revenue here and there. And so, I experimented, and I really wanted to try to make YouTube work and see. And the only way to do it is to actually do it. Like you make 100 videos before you can ever make one good one.
It's about practice as well, right? I mean, you said, about being in front of the camera, and I mean, it's awful to start off with, right? You hate everything about what you're doing on camera.
Definitely. Your voice, and like, oh no, my eye is weird. I never noticed this about me. And of course the comments are going to bring up about it. Like, oh, the receding hairline. And it's like, my hair it's kind of been the same forever, but it is like, you start just picking yourself apart. I remember one time I got a brand new like RX-7, and I think now I maybe hold the camera a little bit further away from my face, but in some of those shots, it's just right on my face. And they're like, man, you have skin cancer. You need to go to the doctor. Like, oh my God. And it's like, it's always been there. I always have little freckles and stuff. They've always been there. But when the quality like went up higher, everybody's like freaking out.
Yeah, it's the first time I heard my voice. I was like, that doesn't sound like me. I'm sure I don't sound like that at all. What?
I remember being a kid and just recording my voice and like, a little Walkman or whatever we had back then and being like, whoa, okay, this is completely different than anything I thought. But now I'm actually completely used to it. It's so weird how you get used to all these things.
Yeah, it is. You said you started with the audiobooks and the Wi-Fi sprinkler systems. Did you have any inspiration or anything to come up with BKXC? So any other videos and YouTube channels that you kind of use for that?
Oh, yeah. So for me, like Casey Neistat was a big one. So he was doing his vlog every day thing. And there was a lot of inspirational stuff thrown in there along with, man, what's this guy doing? Where's he going? Where's he at? What's like, you're kind of following along on his story and seeing a day in his life, which seemed so simple, but every day was actually like a multi-layered story and it was interesting. And yeah, he had a couple videos in there that I just happened to catch. And it's funny now thinking about it. There's probably other people out there vlogging just like he did, but what he did was just this special moment in YouTube time and people would talk about it. And it was like, it was kind of a one-off thing. But yeah, there was little moments in those videos where he took the time to actually talk and be like, hey, if you want something, you got to go after it. People are going to say, that it's impossible, and just all these motivational things that I don't run into very often in normal YouTube viewing. I think people keep that stuff bottled in, even though every single successful person in any walk of life has a little bit of self-help, has a little bit of like that mindset of building yourself up and like, who cares what the haters say? And I think people are too embarrassed to talk about it, or they're too like they shut off. They don't want other people to know the secret sauce. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then again, some people are just like crazy success driven and they don't even know how they got somewhere, except for that they just work as hard as they possibly can at every hour of the day.
Yeah. How do you come? So I know most of your ideas for your videos are you going to different trails and showcasing those trails off. With other ideas, and especially right now with being locked down and things like that, how do you come up with other creative ideas for videos and that sort of process?
You got any ideas? I'm curious. I need some. Dude, they're tough. I keep like a little list all the time of different kind of off the wall ideas outside of just go to a destination and write it. And I thought I had a lot of those. And now as we're in this lockdown thing, it's like, this one isn't actually that great. This one is okay. This one's okay. One of them that was actually decent was the, things you should do when you get a new mountain bike, and like, do this. And that's like just over the years, I've accumulated little like, oh yeah, when I should do that. Oh, I could make a video about this. Like that. This is like when you start from scratch. And a lot of, I think even success in general is writing things down. Like I remember seeing this pyramid of, maybe it's inverted pyramid. So like at the top, everybody has ideas. A lot less people actually write them down. And then less people like go back and chew on those ideas and obsess about those ideas. And then even fewer people actually execute on those ideas. So it's like, as long as you're writing stuff down and you have a way to review what you've written down, you are very much a leg ahead of the world of like tons of people have tons of great ideas, but you almost have to be in a system of like, write it down. But yeah, coming up with ideas, because that's my expertise is travel. Like that, my expertise is going places, showing places off. So my expertise is not working on my bike. It's not skills. It's not a lot of this stuff. So I'm like, okay, I do have enough experience kind of sort of to come up with some kind of ideas that are more generic. I worked on my shed. I fixed that up. And I think that was kind of a fun video, working on the van. But I'm not a genius when it comes to the video ideas.
So do you kind of wish you could ever go, when you're riding these trails and stuff, do you kind of ever wish you could just go ride, not video, just take it in and not have to worry about the camera gear and all that kind of go?
It's funny, I don't, because it's not that big a deal. And I feel like if I was like trying to be on vacation, I'd get bored or like I'd be antsy. And then I have these amazing like scrapbook of my experiences and these places and these trails that like, just fades so quickly because it's such a quantity and quality thing. When you do 5 days in a row, which ends up being like 15 or 20 amazing trails, like if you did one of those on your home trails, you'd be like, whoa, but then you end up doing 20 amazing descents and craziness. I was actually watching the old Tibet videos for the first time again after a couple of years on the big screen with Sarah, my girlfriend. And it's amazing. It's like, wow, all this stuff happened and the colors and everything. And you remember back, and I was telling her all these things like, oh yeah. And then I actually said it in the video. So it's like, wow, I covered all this. Like I didn't like leave out anything. Everything was really well covered. And it's this perfect snapshot that you could live all these experiences, but to actually have them be something that my grandkids or my nephews or whatever will see someday, like it's just neat.
It's like a living photo album.
Exactly.
Yeah. So with all the, with being outside all the time, do you get what are the challenges of filming outdoors all the time? What are the challenges of that sort of volatile environment in terms of weather and lighting and all that kind of stuff?
Definitely. The lighting is definitely such a bizarre thing where you think about it and then sometimes you'll get back and you'll be like, wow, this is almost unusable. The footage, if it's like through the trees and the perfect 12 o'clock sun just beating down and you're like, oh no, what have I done? But like, I'm kind of at the mercy of the people who are going to guide me or like, on a guided trip and that kind of stuff. But luckily, almost 90% of the time it works somehow. There are days where it's rainy and, if I have a choice, I just don't ride if it's going to be raining. But if I'm out on a guided trip, I'll strap on the gimbal and see what happens. And then sometimes it actually works. It's crazy how resilient everything has been versus in my mind, I'm like, oh God, this is the lighting. Oh God, the mud's going to get on the lens and all that stuff. So wind, rain, mud, sun, heat, like in cold, like if I've been in like super extreme cold in Quebec and, the batteries get sucked dry, like almost like immediately, like you almost have to keep the camera running and that keeps the batteries going longer, which was so counterintuitive to me where it's like, I always stop the camera, turn it off, turn it on. but just by keeping it going was actually keeping it above a certain temperature. So it wouldn't get completely dried out. So, and then cameras overheat at certain temperatures as well. But somehow I use the GoPro Hero 4 for most of my stuff, a camera that's probably 4 or 5 years old at this point, and it actually drives all of my content. It's way more steady than you would ever imagine. Like for all the crap that, I give GoPro and like, oh, why can't it be better? This old camera is still like, I'm filming all my things and I'm reaching all these people all around the world. I'm making a living. Like it's crazy.
Do you only have one GoPro Hero 4? Do you have multiple?
No, I have several. I have several GoPro Hero 4s, and now they're out of print. I think they've kind of stopped making them. So
just scouring eBay for extras.
Exactly, and eventually I should just move to the Hero 8 and make it work, kind of, sort of. But there's all these audio problems, and that's a lot of inside baseball for anyone who's not interested. But for some reason, waterproofing the camera means the audio is garbage, and they haven't ever really solved that problem. And the thing is, I'm not on a video shoot when I go out and ride. I am basically, a lot of people say, wow, I didn't even know you were filming that whole time because I just have the camera on my chest. I use a chest mount and I have a little gimbal thing that keeps the camera steady, and I hit start and I hit stop. Now, if I wanted to do a full video shoot, then it's like action. Okay, roll sound, do this, record out of a separate pack, and then that's not what I do. I capture life as it happens and not try to sync audio to this and have an external record. Like it just blows the entire process up. So if I can do a one button thing, that's what works for what I do.
Yeah, it becomes more of a video shoot than an actual ride then. And then it's not exactly, it's not fun.
Exactly. Oh, let's do that again. I didn't get sound. We need to go back. And that's just not something I would ever burden anyone with.
Yeah. I mean, you even got lucky with the weather when you came to the UK, right?
That was the ultimate. I cannot imagine ever going back. I just can't think of going back because the weather was amazing. There was dust in Scotland. There was, just such bluebird days. We had one day in the Forest of Dean, and it was a Patreon ride, and I filmed like this much of it, but the rain was coming down so hard. And that was even the funniest part where the guys were like, oh, I've never seen it rain this much. Like, what? I mean, like, it's just the drizzly, the kind of that's like the kind of rain versus like California rain is pretty hot and heavy, and like we'll have a couple of weeks like just in a row, which I avoided this year, but where it just comes down, and now who knows? It probably won't rain till October out here.
We've not had much of it, to be honest, since this lockdown started. It's been really nice weather, which is total pain because you can't go out, and you're like, great, brilliant, thanks. And as soon as lockdown ends, it's going to rain for like 3 months solid, probably.
Totally. Yeah, I remember, I think I read a little article about Snowden having more visitors than it's ever had during the lockdown and stuff. And we're trying to get out there and be safe, but you see so many people on the trails right now. It's, if you're stuck in traffic, you're traffic. We're all part of the problem.
Yeah, there's a skate park near my house, and the amount of kids there on a daily basis just it makes me cringe. I just don't know what they're doing. It's ridiculous. I know. So you say you've got the GoPro Hero 4 and the gimbal. Do you like the tech aspect of being a YouTuber? Do you like tech? Are you kind of into it?
I kind of am, but it's funny because it's more of an impedance than anything. I know there's better stuff out there, but I just don't want to waste my time fiddling around with, try this setup, try this setup, try that setup, even though right now is kind of the best time and I should be buying different stuff to experiment with and play with it. But I like tech, but I don't get too caught up in, this is the next big thing. I got to do it. A lot of my buddies are like that, like, I got this. And it's like, it's not going to solve all your problems. Like, there is good nerdy things. And yeah, it's funny how technology is progressing, but it always feels slow when you're in the moment. Like, can't they make a better camera? At least I'm lucky enough to have an income where it's like, I need to buy this laptop. This time versus money is so important. And I fret over every dollar I spend. And I just like, it pains me so much. But when my laptop starts locking up, or every time I do something or exporting, it's like, okay, if this takes me 3 hours to export a video on my old computer, but 1 hour in my new computer, that means I can do 2 more hours worth of stuff. It's worth it, especially if I'm doing 2 videos a week, and the mental anguish that it saves. And it's always that cry once, I think somebody calls it, instead of buy once, cry once, instead of buying over and over and trying to chintz out.
I think speaking of income, so most of your income comes from Patreon and the patrons from there. Do you worry about the current virus situation and people's ability to spend that money on something like your channel?
Yeah, I do. I do worry about it for sure. And because it's out there for free and the people on Patreon, I try not to make it seem like Patreon is a donation. That's the last thing I want it to be. This is not like you're like, hey, like, it is a community. It is saying, hey, I believe in this. I want to be a part of this. But it is really like, hey, $3 a month, you're getting these videos. Like, that's what it's all about. You're getting these videos, and it's an exchange. It's like Netflix and podcasts. I do a bunch of little stuff just to kind of be like, hey, we're here, we're in this community, and we're in it together kind of thing. And I think that's a good way to do it, instead of like, hey, I need $1,000 a month, and the donation thing. But yeah, I'm still very weirded out that the economy is kind of sort of fine, even though tons of people are unemployed in America, but it's just not the reverberations, or you're not seeing it, you're not feeling it. It's very much a silent thing right now. And I totally feel that, like, we're going to come around. We can't hold it off forever by, spending our way out of it, or however we're going to try to fix it. So yeah, I am worried about that. And it's something I think about. It's entertainment, it's discretionary value. And the good thing about how I live is I don't have that many big time expenses. The van is a decent expense. Of course, rent is a decent expense. But like, other than that, I don't have like a nice fancy car or something else where it's like, oh God, I need this much because I'm spending this much. I try to spend this much, and it doesn't always work that way with international travel and stuff. But at least I can kind of hunker down a bit.
From on that point of view, people are always wondering about YouTubers and what they get sent for free, and what the sponsors provide and stuff. Is that something that happens with the channel for you? Do you get sent free stuff or that kind of thing?
I try to, I try to disclose everything, like especially when it comes to big stuff, my bike, the bike parts. Whenever I do a bike build, I'll have like the latest bike build I did. I think I did a really good job where I had something on the bottom of the screen on every single thing. Like this was sent to me for free, or I bought this, and that works really well. And I just hate getting stuff sent for free because it's always an expectation. There's no such thing as free anything. People have an expectation, even if they say, oh yeah, they want something in return for sure. They want you to use it. They want you to show it. They want you to do it. And I say no to so much stuff and just try to be like, no, sorry, man. I don't want I got all this stuff. I already got all this stuff. Like, but then every once in a while somebody sneaks through and I get a shirt or I get something and it's like, okay, I've got this now. I don't know if I'm ever going to use it. Yeah, I have so many emails every day. Hey, do a review for me. Hey, how about this? And then you see people that are a little bit more legitimate and it's like, sorry, man. Like it's just a coupon code for this. It doesn't move the needle. Like I get so many of these things. Like if you want to pay, and that's the thing I always do. It's like, hey, my sponsored rate is this much. And that's why you don't see any sponsored stuff on my channels, except for Whoop and a couple things here and there. Where like, I've done sponsored videos with Ibis and stuff, but I just set the bar so high that it's like, oh, okay, we can't possibly afford that.
Yeah, it's a good way of doing it. So is there any video or any videos that you've ever regretted posting?
I did have a video on Patreon where there was this this Patreon ride that I did at the Sedona Mountain Bike Fest a couple years ago, where this guy broke his frame and he was like, "Hey, you can't post this on social media." And I really just got all up in a tizzy about it, like internally, because I was like, "Man, this guy came on my ride just to show off, like just to be like get visibility, to like kind of be like, hey, I'm riding with Brian kind of thing," or like, so it just like it got me so much. But I posted like kind of a version on Patreon that was like a little more snippy and a little more and it was totally the wrong move. And it was good because I got all my feedback out of the way, and like without it being a public thing, I could see with my people that I was like, oh, I totally handled this the wrong way. I did not just go to him and say, hey man, because I just know if I would have worked on him and said, hey, like this was like pretty amazing. I think this would be pretty cool. Like we should try to actually post this. But instead he was like, oh no, you can't post it. And that I just like took that and ran with it. Because I don't know. I'm the kind of guy, if I say something, I mean it. I'm like, but I know when you can work on people and be like, hey, what do you think? And like, you can kind of schmooze people. I'm just not a schmoozer. I'm just like oh, that's what he said and that's what he meant. So like, that was like my biggest regret, and it didn't blow up my face too much. And me and that guy, like it's total water under the bridge. And it's one of those things I definitely regret the way I handled it, but you live and learn. And I felt like I was doing the right thing at the time, but I totally wasn't. It like you see later on, you're like, okay. The only way to do that is to make mistakes. Yeah.
And so, kind of emotion got the better of you a little bit with that one.
Oh, definitely. I'm that way. I'm so like I just like, I can't help myself. I'm very much like a 0 to 60 guy, like so fast.
How do you cope with the relative fame of being a YouTuber? Because I know some people in like the mountain bike video YouTuber community have had people track down their address and their home and things like that. Has that ever happened to you?
No, it had. So it's very interesting. I have a theory about all this, actually. Like I live my life so much out in the open, and you can tell that I'm kind of boring and there's not much mystery, and I don't think people care. I think there are people, I get some emails, I get some red flag emails for sure. And I try to like keep them, do some responses, keep them at arm's length and stuff like that. And it does happen, but those people just flitter off eventually. They eventually just like go like, off the top of my head, there's like 2 or 3 guys that like, oh yeah, that guy, what the hell ever happened? He was like emailing me every day or like, like, but then they just kind of flitter off and they find something else to obsess about or whatever. But I really think, because I do the podcast and I ask me anything. If you're in the comments of Patreon, I used to answer almost every comment on YouTube. I don't even barely look at them anymore because the negativity and the time sink. But on Patreon, if you're in it, you're like, I'll answer almost any question. If you send me a message, I'll answer any question. Like, I think, for bigger YouTubers, it's more of a mystery. Like, who is this guy? What's he really like? And it's more of a thing. And the bigger you get, the more weirdos you do attract. And I think I've got a tribe of people that I've been able to curate really, really well, of like just really cool guys that are kind of like me, and ladies that kind of think the same way. But there is always the weirdo factor, and I'm pretty good. And now, I think about that now with Sarah in my videos, and it attracts another level. Female, always attracts another weird male level of stuff. So I'm very much aware of that, 1,000%. And so that is actually something I worry about a little bit, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
So this question could be a tough one. So one of the most interesting videos of yours was called Why I Ride. It was an emotional one about your Uncle Dennis, who got you started with riding mountain bikes. I understand you filmed it close to the day he passed away. This was a raw emotional video that didn't hide anything from your viewers. How hard was it to film that? Did you have any reservations of being so vulnerable in front of the camera? And how hard was it to edit it after the filming?
Yeah, that was actually like the day after, like he had died the night before. And yeah, like you said, my Uncle Dennis got me into mountain biking. He was a big time adventurer, just outdoorsy guy. Abalone, like free diving. Abalone is what we would dive for out on the coast. And we went to Half Dome. We did hikes in Yosemite, just the all around amazing outdoorsman. And I basically had to make that video because I had planned to get him on an e-bike and get out and do that video with him in the Crockett Hills. And I never got to it. I was out traveling. I never got around to actually making that video with him. So I felt like I owed it to him to make that video with all the memories, and especially when it was still raw and you could still remember all the different little things and the anecdotes and the stories, and just try to capture his memory and who he was and how much that influenced me. And that's why this whole thing exists, like because of him. And he was a big fan of the channel. He always wore a BKXC shirt. Nice. And so it's like, it's just neat to be able to capture that. And it wasn't as hard as I thought, because this is what I do. I talk for a living, right. And I wear my heart on my sleeve. And yeah, it's definitely, I was like, didn't like think I was going to start crying like on a couple of moments where I actually did. And I was like, oh man, like, and some of it was a little too over the top. And I actually like cut it out because I'm like, people are going to think I'm faking this. And like, I tried to keep it as even keel as I could, because because you are doing multiple takes, and you are, it makes it feel dirty where it's like, oh, the first cut I actually was like pretty crying, and I'm like, no, I can't do it. It's just like, we got to get through this. And so, yeah, editing it, not too bad, going through it. And now it's like, I'm so proud of that video. It tells people about him. It tells people about me. And that's the amazing thing about this whole YouTube channel, is that I'm sure people join in and they watch the videos, and they like, I don't do a great job of like kind of telling my story again and being like, hey, go back and watch this, or go back to the start and watch it as a series, because it starts with a guy riding with the thumbs over his handlebars, and then all of a sudden traveling the world.
Probably.
And like, exactly, like all of us. So it's just a neat ongoing novel that has like been being written for the past 4 years.
So mountain biking is obviously, as any adventure sport is risky business. An injury could probably obviously halt the channel and the videos and traveling and stuff like that, despite global pandemics and everything.
Yeah.
So if you got injured, how much of it, obviously, that would be impacted? Do you worry about getting injured? Is that something that crosses your mind?
I don't worry about it too much, because on the trail, at least I take the risks I feel like I should take. And that always gets me a little bit of crap from the old commenters, because it's like, oh, why didn't you hit this? Why aren't you better at this? It's because, hey, I can keep riding and keep taking the risks that I feel comfortable with. And so far, so good. I have not had any major injury that's kept me off the bike for any point of time. But it is funny. Like, I think about, like, we're basically in that same scenario right now. I have been able to get out and ride. Actually, I filmed a ride video a couple days ago, and that'll be on YouTube eventually. But So this is almost the same situation. And I'm very much like, oh man, I'm running out of ideas so fast. And I thought it would push me to like get better and stuff, but I'm just barely hanging on. Like, okay, I came up with that idea. Let's on to the next week. Okay, well, how am I going to do this? Okay, live stream on Monday and then a video on Wednesday because I can't figure it out kind of thing. So it's tough. It is very tough. And I even though I still feel like it is kind of a foregone conclusion that I will get injured at some point and that will happen. So that's why I'm always thinking about other things and other business ideas and other, not to abandon the channel, but to use the channel as, a springboard for other things, other ideas. And because right now, it's a video treadmill. It's just like, boom, get these videos out versus creating something on the side to help me, kind of, I can hop off the treadmill a little bit and create some other things.
Do you ever miss having a regular paid income day job?
Not for a second. It's crazy. Like I get that question a lot. It is scary. It is scary that like, oh, health insurance, I got to pay. And like, oh, taxes. Like it's just a constant like, am I doing this right? Am I actually going to have enough money? Is this, this is up. This is way down. That's what's great about Patreon is that it's pretty steady. It is funny because it gets charged at the beginning of the month, and at the beginning of every month, there's like 50 people that just magically disappear. But then throughout the month, like, okay, people join up and stuff happens. So Patreon's the most consistent level because YouTube ads are bizarre. I make 2 videos a week. I get a variety of tons of views or like, okay views on them, but my ad revenue is up and down and up, and you cannot make heads or tails of it when it's going to be good and when it's going to be bad. It's just the most mysterious, weird thing.
Not reliable.
I'm very grateful for it. Yeah, not reliable at all. I'm very grateful for it, but it's actually good that it trains us to be like, we got to find something else. Let's get a new t-shirt going. Let's get this going. Let's get that going.
So lastly, I started a business back in October, and all of those things ring true for me. Is sometimes I do think that it would be easier to go back into employment and work for somebody else, but I really don't want to anymore. I've done that for 20 years, and it's not something I want to do anymore. What are the top 3 things you would say to people, not necessarily starting YouTube channels, but starting their own journey as, their own business and stuff? What are the kind of top 3 tips that you would give people?
There's a lot of like working on yourself first. That's the only way I would have ever been able to do this, I think. If I had to become self-aware, I had to know why am I bad at this? Why am I good at this? Why do I feel this way? So I just devoured self-help business books and got in that mindset. Because, my mindset growing up is go to college, get a job, go to college, get a job, go to college, get a job. I didn't know anyone who's ever started their own business. My aunt does hair, works at a hair salon. So she has her own business kind of, sort of, she got her license and she freelances and she has clients and stuff. But that's the closest thing in my family of someone that, started something and built this and it's all independent and you're relying on the outside world. We all just, got union jobs in my family. That's the thing. You get a union job. So the mindset has to be there that you can work hard enough and that you can do it and you can obsess about it enough. So I guess that's one. that's one of the 3. But another one is just, you can do it. You can work harder than all these other people. It's there. It's there for the taking. But you have to have a skill too. You have to, the hard work has to be there. You have to show up. So much of this life is showing up. I see it all the time, constantly in my life. And I always go back to the plumber or the tree service guy that I've had. The plumber never answers your call. You call them and they never call you back. Who does that? What? How can you possibly leave messages for 4 different plumbers and none of them call you back? They don't want business. They have too much business. They're lazy. The tree trimming guy that does kind of a half-assed job and drives a big old $90,000 truck. And you're like, what? These people just exist and they can make it happen. Yeah. Exactly. So it's your own limiting beliefs are what's holding you back, because these jackasses are able to just make this happen some way, somehow. So, but if you do show up and work hard, you're already head and shoulders above everyone else. It's so crazy. And then, yeah, lastly, you're always going to have that internal resistance. Like, that was the hardest thing. My channel was going. I had views. I had comments. I had income. I knew what I needed to do. I knew that I had to quit my job and go full steam. But even with all of it laid out in front of me, in my own mind, I was certain, even though there was no certainty there. Like, I was certain in my own mind. It was still tough to take a leap and go independent and tell my parents and be like, quit my job, like, hey, like, I'm going to do this. Even though I was so certain that I was on the path, that people liked it, that what I was doing was working, there was still a wall of resistance that you're going to have to kick down, and you're going to have to like mantra motivate, self-help. Like, that's why those Casey Neistat videos were so powerful. Like, go back and watch, like, yeah, you need to do this. People are going to, it's like, oh yes. Like that fuel for the fire to like take a leap.
It's like David Goggins and his fitness stuff.
Yes.
Right? It's just like,
yeah, man, that book can't hurt me. If there's one thing, if everybody listening to this right now goes and reads that book or listens to the audiobook, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, like, that is a fantastic way to get motivated about life and be like, wow, I want to just like I want to go freaking run 100 miles now.
So that's all the questions done. Do you want to just give a quick shout out to all your kind of social media channels and things like that?
Yeah, if you Google BKXC, you'll find me. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I post on Instagram a decent amount, but not really. I'm on Facebook. I'm on all the places, but really YouTube. Try to be there twice a week. I have a Patreon page, which is a little more stuff, but you gotta get into the YouTube before you ever hop onto the Patreon and kind of go deeper, go into the private club. But yeah, it's a fun thing. Even if you're not interested in mountain bike videos, throw one on, go through the list of videos, throw one on. You might actually be surprised, like, that it's like, whoa, this is interesting. Who is this thing? So give it a check.
Great. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Craig.